Hopefully this is recording right. I don't do this as often as I should. I don't know. I think I'm just lazy, and obviously you don't see the camera, so that means I'm really lazy today. But NGS is coming up. Nexus Gaming Series. I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm going to give some projections because we have about 3 teams representing us this season. And but before I do that, I did want to kind of tell you where we're at. So it's the 4th of August of 2022 as I'm recording this. Um, if you're pretty deep into the community already, you're aware that Blizzard notified, well, just put a update out that essentially they're putting the game on maintenance mode. I mean, you can kind of read it for yourself. I'm not going to analyze it because I'm not, you know, I don't care that much. Um, Mainly because I never really played at the highest level. Um, but I think a lot of people it might matter. So I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on this, just for time capsule sake, essentially. Um, this will be interesting, right? So they put it on maintenance mode. I mean, the people that were playing somewhat consistently. I mean, there hasn't been arguably a lot of updates since March, from what a lot of people were saying, of 2022. So it's been, 4 months or whatever, without really any updates. And kind of what they're saying is they're just gonna, you know, fix any game-breaking bugs if needed. Maybe do something every year or twice every year or something, and that's about it. So essentially, the game has run its course. I don't know if this will ever be a popular game. I don't even know how the MOBA genre in general is doing. Kind of wonder if that population is kind of getting old and everyone is now, first-person shooters and um, whatever other games are coming out. Even heard a Doctor Disrespect game is being in development, so I'm excited for them and his community. If you have no idea who he is, look him up. He's a riot, and he's pretty popular in that world for sure. And I don't even really play first-person shooter, and I know of him. That's how popular he is. But there's a couple people that are way bigger into the scene than I. Obviously, you can tell by my subscribers. 15 of us. I remember when there was like one person. That was myself. I subscribed to myself so I wouldn't be a zero. So thanks everyone for subscribing, and hopefully we'll still be able to build a community because I still like this game. I think what's going to happen, obviously, the pro scene's going to die out. CCL currently exists. They haven't really said if they're going to hold on to next season, but it's a huge disappointment for the people that followed CCL because they were going to do a LAN event, and then it just wasn't logistically going to work out. It could have been a combination of the management change over there. From what I heard, I don't really know the full details. Could have been because maybe the game was dying and they had some forewarning of it, or not really. I mean, dying is the perception. I mean, it's still functional, it still works. It's just there's no updates anymore, which I'll talk about in a second because there's another way to look at it depending on how serious you want to do it or play the game, I should say, moving forward. And then kind of going back to that. What else was I going to say about that? There was something I was going to say. I think there was another point. Um, do I remember? Oh yeah, just playing with. I think just playing with the game. I think um, the pro scene will essentially just die because there's no prize pool, well, at least at that level. But it could evolve. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like if that dies out, or CCL just drops, which they might, or maybe they'll continue it. Oh yeah, I was gonna say. Sorry, I'm getting off track. Apologize. I think also where we're at right now, like the plane prices are crazy too. There's like not a lot of pilots right now. There's like shortage, so prices are a lot higher than they normally would because of scarcity and unpredictability if you're actually going to get a flight. I mean, that kind of plays into it, I think, as well. And then maybe the amount of people that signed up versus where they're at, they're just like, eh. And it could have been just a management call, honestly. Like if they transition in management, then maybe they just want to save money where they can, and this wasn't in the cards to follow through with it. So who knows? Whatever the reason, the CCL LAN event isn't happening. Um, some of you may even know better than I if you actually hear this at some point. Um, but as far as the game state, I don't know. I mean, so if if the purpose of the game is to eventually become a pro, I think the pro scenes will eventually fall into um, other leagues that still exist, whether it's Heroes Lounge, whether it's Nexus Gaming Series. I think in EU there's a Masterclass or something like that. I think that's the pro version there, and that might continue. Actually, I don't know if it's going to stop. Depending on if CCL um, decides to keep doing it, I don't know if they will, based off of their transparency recently, how they've been in the red. So maybe they'll be done after the season, which is unfortunate because that was a pro scene and a lot of people that followed HGC really enjoy that competitiveness. But I mean, games will still get casted just on different leagues essentially. Um, so kind of having mentioned that, that kind of brings us to the state of the game. I mean, if we have 90 characters and we have I don't even know how many maps, um, I wonder what will happen um, if we're just kind of left to be creative with what we have. So the short of it is, if you still enjoy playing the game, keep playing the game. You know, if your goal was to be pro, you know, then obviously, and if you're young enough, or even if you're not, you know, then pour that time into something else you enjoy. You know, but if you're and be realistic with yourself. If you're just you got too many obligations and you can't put in the time to become a pro, you know, and you still enjoy the game, then why not keep playing it? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean the game can't bring in new people because it's still functional and there's all the heroes and you know it's just like someone coming way later to the game essentially. But even the metas will probably change. Like there could be some crazy meta that seems indestructible and really with the breach of communication because even I think I only knew of like one podcast that was even doing it. They've even transitioned too because you know their whole a lot of their content was about updates and changes and if that solely was the you know all they talked about then they don't have anything else to talk about really so they transitioned so they were into the Nexus. I don't know what they're called now. I think it's called Bromance. I've been listening to some of their episodes so Kyle and Garrett, if you hear this later, shout out to you both. Still listen to the podcast um, even though you transition and I think you'll have a lot more fun just being more variety for sure for you two. um, if you want to hear all the details as far as like from someone that's more well versed, I know Grubby did a great video. Not Paradox did a great video. You know, listen to them as well. Maybe I don't know. If I'm not lazy, I'll put some links in there you can follow if you really want to listen to those. And if somehow you're in the community and you haven't heard it already. Um, but having said that, though, I mean, I don't know. It's like I think about chess and ping pong of all things, right? Like chess has kind of been growing a lot recently and surging, and that game hasn't changed at all, right? And obviously it's not a video game, so it's a little different, but it hasn't changed. Like ping pong, like there was such a small community for that until I forgot the guy's name. I think it's like Adam something. Um, I don't know. I was like, yeah, ping pong's fun, and I didn't know anything about any pro scene or anything. It was such a small niche community. I was like, man, I don't even know how many people actually play ping pong still. But you know, people that are passionate have fun with the game still. You know, they've kind of researched that whole sport, surprisingly. And you're gonna find those nuances, right? There's all these weird things where you can be a pro at or be really good at, and as long as it's fun and entertaining, you know, keep playing it, really. So if you hear this and you're a casual gamer, I don't know if it's really gonna affect you. I think the fear is that the game is eventually going to die out, but I don't know how much more it's going to die out. I think if you were under the parameters of being a pro, yeah, you'll probably stop. Um, you know, if you feel like the community's dying and you have no other way to gauge if they're dying or not, yeah, you might stop just because the podcast stopped. You know, what was televised or I guess streamed at a high level was stopped. So it may seem like you're alone, but the queues, surprisingly, and it's only been a few weeks, have been faster. So I don't know if they changed something in the coding um, to make the games faster, but they've actually been faster now than before. So I don't even know. And it's interesting too because I play on the NA server and I also play on the EU server because the EU server was queuing up faster, but recently the NA server, at least at silver level, and just so I know where I'm at, has been faster. Now, granted, on the NA side, there's a huge, bigger problem with Smurfs and um, people teaming up uh, comparatively to just other people that are at that skill level. And it's interesting. I've actually noticed a little bit more in that should be in that skill level, probably myself included, than normal, which is odd because on the EU side, which I think has way more of an active population, um, at the silver ranked, it's very rare that I'd run into Smurfs, but on the NA side, it's just like they're all over the place. So um, essentially, that's kind of what I think will happen. I think metas will um, be created, and then because there's no changes, people will try to figure out how to combat that. And I think metas will just keep changing. I mean, and maybe we might get to this point where there's just like an unbreakable meta, and then that's just what it is, and people dominate if they get that. Um, which is, I think, what a lot of people will happen. A lot of people like the changes because it doesn't feel so stagnant, and you can kind of think of different strategies to ban. But I don't know. I think at the end of the day, if you still enjoy playing the game, then keep on doing it. Especially if you're at a casual level. If there's other modes that you haven't tried, I'd recommend doing that. Storm League at the lower level, if you're brand new, is it's pretty competitive. There's a lot of like good people that probably shouldn't be there, probably because they're on Smurfs, but that's just the NA side. EU side, I think you're fine. Just a lot heavier population, like I mentioned before. Um, but essentially, I think if people enjoy it, they'll just keep playing, and I think where we're at, a lot of people that still play it somewhat on a regular basis, if they're realistic with themselves, they probably didn't have a shot at pro anyway. So keep playing because I love playing against y'all. And if you haven't joined any of the amateur leagues, I mean, right now it's just Nexus Gaming Series. I know there are a couple um, like off season. I don't know what to call it. I think maybe they consider themselves a season, but CCS has their own like glorified scrims league, which we participate in when NGS isn't going. So you can literally play year round at amateur level, and even with teams and stuff like that. And there's networks in there where you can recruit people and stuff like that. And then the other one is, oh gosh, I'm not as familiar. I know one of our team members playing it. It's like XGL, I think it's called. I for the life of me, I forget the name. If you know the name, put it in the comments or something like that. If you somehow hear this and want to add, but anyways, so that's just kind of my thoughts on it, just so I could put it out there. I don't know why I feel like I needed to, but I thought it'd be fun. Um, Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of this season in NGS. So I don't know what season are we in. Let's see, past seasons. So previous season was 13. So yeah, I guess we're on season 14. That's kind of crazy. Um, I have noticed that um, teams on the West Coast side or in the West, there's just a lot less teams. On the East, there's a lot more. So if you can see here, if you're not familiar with it, I'll just run it down with you really quick. Storm is kind of like, I guess, the pro level. Then you got Heroic and Nexus, right? So you have those three at the top. So for example, there's 8 teams in Storm Division. I think they had to place, not as familiar, but they had to go through like tryouts and earn X amount of points and so forth, and then those are the top 8 or whatever that are going to represent. I don't know if there's a prize pool. There might be. If it is, it's very small. Then after that's Heroic, and you can see that's pretty bulky. You got like 12 teams in there. So I believe you have about 10 weeks, and you have around 12 games, 10 to 12 games, depending on how they break it down. Let's see what else. You got Nexus. How many are in there? So there's 7. So it seems a little bit shorter, but they're too good for A, and maybe just fell a little short for Heroic. But basically 3 top tier divisions. If I knew soccer better, I'd probably break it down that way, like Premier League and whatever other leagues. But you kind of get the idea. That's kind of what they're going for here. And then you have the divisions, east and west side. Um, Predominantly on the east, it usually is pretty full. Like these guys have 13. Right, and I think it's just a lot of people that play on the East Coast. Really, it's they divide it by the time zones you most likely can play in, and then you have the West, and there's only seven. So seven compared to 13, I guess that's 20 teams total in Div A. So usually with these small teams, which we're kind of in, and I'll talk about in a second, they do like I think they play them twice, play each other twice. So we'll get 12 games total, I think. And then on the East Coast, you probably just play every team once. So maybe they'll do 13 or 12. Actually, they probably have 12 games. So that's kind of how they break it down. I'm sure they do a lot of shifting around. So just to further look at some other leagues here. So B East has 13 teams. Um, B West, which we're actually in that div right now, has 7. So for playoffs, let's see. If you have like 12, I think they're only taking the top 8 that go to playoffs, and if they have 7, they're only taking the top 4. So we'll come to that in a second when I'm trying to, I guess, predict all our teams. We only have 3. No, 3. It's probably the most we've ever had so far. But I'll maybe take a look at projections and see how that goes. So you can kind of get the idea. So the East teams, they have the most, probably just because the most people play over there in that div. C West is probably the biggest representation of the West side with 12 teams there. Always good competition. We were in C for a while. I think this is the second time we're going to be in Div B, which we're excited about. Um, let's see, Div D East, you can see it's like 12 teams there. Um, D West has 7. Yeah, 7 again. It was funny. At one point, I was like, maybe I should do a podcast on all of these teams and rankings, and I have no idea. Like match breakdowns is like, man, how many hours would I spend talking about all these teams I wouldn't have time to watch? It sounded like a fun project, but I don't know if I'd ever be able to follow through. So East Div, or Division E, there's like 12 teams there, and then on the West Coast side, there's 7. Okay, so we'll start with here. So our first team for Team Rainbow Strike Go is Team Rainbow Shrooms Go. um, they're going to be representing us. I've actually played with a lot of them before. I'm surprised they're placed in Div E. I'm excited for them and also surprised. I thought they'd be a Div D, but because they're new, I think it just depends on their ranking. I have known that Div C got super competitive. That means, um, I don't know, maybe the competition just got really, really extreme, and they're just like, okay, well, it's pretty stacked in these other divs, and obviously we don't have as many people. So, um, but anyway, I haven't really looked at the other teams per se, but I feel pretty strong about that one. I'm pretty sure they'll make the top 4. I wouldn't be surprised with this lineup if they make if they just take the whole thing on the west side. Now, I'm not sure how West stacks up against East. I almost feel like sometimes maybe East might be just a higher skill level, but I could be wrong there. It just seems like there's so many teams to keep track of there. But anyway, so this is the roster for Team Rainbow Shrooms Go. So I'm excited for them. Um, Helen was a captain, but she's coming back on this team, and Demon Grand's going to be heading that team over there. I think Diet Llama, surprised we picked him up. Super excited. I guess I had some connections. I've played against him a few times. Never played against B-Man or Just Garbage or Silver Braille, but I've heard good things about them. So I'm hoping they'll be able to at least take the division for East West anyway. At least take a division championship for us. Maybe even sweep the whole thing. That would be amazing if they ever hear this later. Um, let's see. The next team that we have is on C East, I believe, unless they switched them out. Maybe they switched them out. Looks like they switched them. Crazy. So maybe they're in C West? I have no idea where this team is. Where did our second team go, people? Oh no, they were on B. They were on B East. That's right. They're trying to get switched out of it. So let's see. Where are they? Team Rainbow Strike go undead. All right, fantastic. So let's take a look at the roster. I've been kind of watching in the background, but um, Pink Blackout is the captain. First time being a captain. I'm super excited for her. She took a lot of time, put the team together. Have some good expectations. I think with their div, they have I think it was like 13, so they have to make the top 8. They definitely have the potential to do it. It just depends on if they can get it together in time by the time the playoffs hit. So they just have to hit the top 8. I I think based off what I've seen so far, projecting them to be in the bottom 4, so anywhere from 4 to 8. Um, but I know Butte Holiday has been on some good teams in the past. She's got a lot of experience. Chair has had a lot of experience. I'm not as familiar with Nora, but I've seen and heard some good things. Little Ducky, Charlemagne, Basilios. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly or their name correctly, but um, they're a little bit newer to me. But those other 3, I think, are for sure are pretty solid from what I've seen. So I think they'll be able to get it together. I think it's just a matter of when they do have losses, how they'll bounce back in the next game. So that really just takes us to our last team, which is the main team. So we're B West. Now, this is the second time we've been in this div. There were a lot more teams last season. Only 7, and this is going to be interesting. So when we did it last, I think we had 10, um, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be in the top 8, and we were. I think we ended like I don't remember. It always feels like 4 or 5 seed. Maybe it was 4 or maybe it was 5. I can't remember. I have to look. But I was pretty confident we'd make it at least in the top 8, even though it was a higher div. Here's what's interesting. So with the other 6 teams, like we played Artemis a ton. We played Can't Connect Stuns a handful of times. Spooky Ghost was new for us, but they've been in Div B forever, so complete vets. Magnitude had a different name, can't remember what it was, but a lot of those guys have um, tons of experience playing together, and they got better um, when they made a new name. They just have a good, solid roster of heroes, stuff like that. Won't go into too much detail about them, but sorry, my dog is barking in the background. Hold please 1 second. If I can maybe get the dog down. All right, she was ready. She already knew she was in trouble. Now, CM breaking meta. I think they're new for the Clouded Minds organization. I don't know how many they have now. I don't know if it's 3 or 4. But like CCS, so Can't Connect Suns is one of them. And then obviously us. They have their orgs going on. Gambit Gaming, I was looking at them earlier, and I think I've seen a handful of these people before, and they're pretty experienced too. I think maybe 2 or 3 of them, I'm guessing. I'd have to research them a little bit, but I think some of them have Div A experience. So our Div is going to be kind of tough, at least where we're at, which is good. And we always want the competition like that. I think it's just going to matter of if we're going to bring our best, and I think it's going to be for every single team in this Div. Because remember, only 4 can go, and there's 7, so it means 3 of them are going to be out by the end of the season. I think if we were to play our game and bring our best every night, which historically we don't do, then we'll have a shot of making it in. But things happen, real life happens, and sometimes you have to adjust, and we don't always perform well that way. But I can probably say the same about a lot of these other teams too. Like they could have an off night if they're a favorite. I don't know. It'll be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how we play the game and approach it. For the people that are still playing in the series after the news of, hey, we're officially on maintenance mode, even though we've kind of been for a while. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm assuming everyone that's still playing in NGS in general just still loves playing the game, and the community is awesome. And if you're not on a team, you can definitely get on one. If you're not sure where to go, like look me up in Discord. If I knew my Discord thing, let's see. Do I even know my Discord thing? I don't know. Send me a message on YouTube if you see this later, and I'll get you connected, or maybe we'll recruit you if you're not a douche. So, um, I think that's pretty much it. That all I wanted to talk about. So, if you do watch this at some point, hopefully this was helpful for you, or maybe give you a little bit of insight into what's going on. But I think a lot of us are going to keep playing as long as we keep enjoying it. Um, I know that's the case for me, but we'll see what happens. So until next time, and I don't know when I'll post next as far as like one of these kinds of conversations, but if you enjoy these, like, let me know. Feel free to subscribe on my YouTube and also my Twitch. My Twitch is follow Robear. Um, yeah, I think you just follow Robear on Twitch, and then my YouTube channel is Robear HOTS. So either one, follow that, reply. It's not like I have a ton of people and get swarmed with stuff, so I'll usually try to reply. But yeah, hope to see you out there. Say hi if you see me in game. Hopefully I'm not raging on you. Happens rarely, but it does happen. But you have a good one. Take care.